Survival is hell, not magic. By Dark0592. Chapter 5, Day 45.
Twilight, can you hear me, my dear?
Twilight heard. She had fallen asleep after 2 straight days of research. It was now day 45, and she swore that voice came from something in the room.
The gem, my dear.
She heard the voice again. It sounded exactly like Star Swirl. Listening to it, she looked to the gem and saw her own reflection in the palm-sized stone. But she realized it wasn't her. It was Star Swirl, bearded and all. Star Swirl? Twilight said.
Yes. Apparently, my life force was trapped in that unstable magic. So now it's in the gem. I am fully aware of everything, as if I'm looking through a sphere of windows.
Star Swirl said. If I weren't in such a hurry to figure out a way to get rid of the toxin, I'd spend hours studying that gem. Twilight said.
Well, I'd be happy to oblige. I'd have the best data on it, me being inside of it, eh? Now, while I can't physically help you, I will still try and further your research as best I can. What are you currently trying to do?
Star Swirl asked. I was trying to dilute or filter the blood samples to eliminate the acidic factor. I was successful with both means, but it seems whatever is causing it to act as acid is also what absorbs the toxin. I also got some good data on the ratios needed. If I left the blood pump in my arm for about 2 days straight, which is roughly an amount equal to about the size of a large 100-capacity swimming pool, then it should be enough to clear the toxin. I've also researched the toxin and found the actual gas is rather dense and will naturally fall. Twilight explained.
So, we need to make sure it destroys as little as possible while still covering the entire city.
Star Swirl said. Yes. As a last resort, I could always use steam and particles from the air to create clouds in my blood to rain down on the city. But that's only a last resort. Like if the barrier falls, which won't happen for at least 100 years with the power that was put into it. Twilight said.
I have an idea. Why don't you test to see how it reacts with water and water mixed with toxin?
Star Swirl suggested. Where are you going with this? Twilight asked.
The few times I glimpsed out of the palace in the few days of my new life, I saw a series of rivers and streams that naturally flowed down the mountain that will remain intact throughout the entire city. If the toxin falls, then we could use those rivers and streams to spread the antitoxin through the entire city.
Star Swirl mused. That's a brilliant idea. But wait, after the barrier goes down, my blood will still be in the water. Not only would it make rebuilding the city harder, but it would dilute the flow downstream the second the barrier drops. Twilight said.
Well, before we build up hope or call it a bust, let's find out if it would actually work.
Star Swirl said. I'll do it when I get back. I need to go out and scavenge. Twilight said as she pulled her hoodie on.
Well then, may I come with you? I could perhaps absorb the unstable energy from those specters and make them easy game for you.
Star Swirl asked. That's an amazing idea. Twilight said. I've been meaning to test some of this out. She continued to herself as she looked at her armor rack. There what looked like a woman's set of light armor disassembled. The bracers of the left arm, both pauldrons, and the chest plate were intact. She was already wearing the boots and knee guards.
What have we here?
Star Swirl asked. I get hurt too much out there, so I tried using Royal Guard armor. But like I said to the logs and to Spike, it's too heavy and makes too much noise. I finally got the right sizes and parts to not encumber me, but still give me more protection, Twilight said as she began putting the armor on.
And what are those?
Star Swirl asked when her hand ran over a series of grooves. The Royal Guard would put enchanted gems into here. Things like magic radiant effects or physical shielding spells were put on them. Hey, wait a minute, Twilight started. Star Swirl grinned and she picked up his gem and slid it into the groove. A perfect fit.
Oh, wonderful! I'm connected to your magic reserves now. My, dear. Your reserves are larger than mine was in life, and slightly larger than all reserves stored up in this gem. Instead of the gem, I can use your body as a centerpiece of my vision. This will be perfect!
Really? Wow! I guess surviving really buffed up my reserves. If you can use that magic you've stored up, I could possibly come up with a device that could control yourself. Running on steam and magic, it could be centuries ahead of our current technology. I'm already about 70 years deep, Twilight said, looking down at the large green gem on her chest.
Well, let's go. I'm interested to see the state of the city, no matter how grim. Don't forget your mask,
he said. She smiled and grabbed it from the table and slipped it on.
Twilight Sparkle and Star Swirl the Bearded. Day 45, Log 9. We've got a basis for our antitoxin research, and we're out scavenging. 5 days ago, I went to the palace and found some items of importance, as well as a specter that was Star Swirl the Bearded.
Twilight started.
This young mage here found me, and we explored together for a bit. Before I was trapped in this unstable magic-absorbing gem. But my life force was caught in it, so now I'm a gem. Hello, to whoever watches this, by the way.
Star Swirl said, earning a giggle from Twilight.
I'm looking into giving Star Swirl his own means of travel, but the antitoxin takes priority. Also, I've been feeling what I think is Spike poking at the barrier lately. So, halfway through my scavenging trip, I returned home and gathered everything I want to get out of here. I've got them in a small pack with the same spell as my backpack on it, with a magic barrier around it so none of the toxin gets in. I'm going to put it through the barrier to him, along with 2 logs I've recorded since the last one, the second one being this one. I don't have the time to copy my notes and organize them, so I'll just read them off now, so we can further the research of the steam power machinery, biomechanical technology, and the antitoxin.
Twilight started and spent the next 10 minutes reading notes, while Star Swirl used his stored magic to copy important diagrams and blueprints she had pinned up. Once she finished, she stopped the recording and slipped the memory chip into the bag and dashed off into the air, towards where she felt something prodding the barrier. You know you shouldn't do that, Spike heard. He nearly had a heart attack as he dropped the stick he had been poking the barrier with.
Whoa, Twi! You can talk through this thing?
Spike said. I'm using a spell to transmit our voices as if there was a hole in a wall, or in this case, barrier, Twilight said.
That stuff looks really cool. What's with the gem, though?
Spike said.
Hello.
Star Swirl said, earning a yelp from Spike.
There's an old guy in there,
Spike exclaimed.
Star Swirl the Bearded, at your service.
Star Swirl said.
Wait, what?
Spike asked. Suddenly a pouch hit him in the chest, and he caught it. There's a lot of stuff in there. I've labeled it all and who it goes to. There's a camera memory card that's got 2 logs on there. The last one explains my new friend and a lot of new information on the research and everything. Make sure Celestia sees it, Twilight said.
I can't get past the barriers.
Spike deadpanned. Celestia knows how to deactivate them. I've gotta go now. There's a hardware store I need to revisit and maybe pick up some magic tools I left behind, Twilight said.
Wait, can you wait for like half a minute? Celestia's an outpost on the other side of this tree line. She'd kill to talk to you,
Spike said. Sure, go get her. I need to repair my clothes anyways, Twilight said with a smile. He saw the holes and tears her pants and hoodie had suffered in the day's activities and nodded. As Spike left, Twilight proceeded to use her magic to mend her clothing and a few dents the armor had sustained in a fight with a few gas she ran into earlier. Twilight? She heard Celestia's voice after about 30 minutes. Celestia, Twilight said when she looked up to see her mentor standing there. She took off her mask and pulled back her hoodie. I see. Being in there really has changed you, Celestia said sadly. Don't worry. I'm still your most faithful student. Did you open the bag? Twilight asked. I did. Thank you for recovering those things. Sorry it took so long. I wanted to be up to date on your logs, Celestia said.
Ah, so my input into this conversation won't need explaining again. Wonderful,
Star Swirl said. It's good to hear your voice again, old friend, Celestia said.
It's good to hear yours as well. The bear stops my sight, but your voice is enough,
Star Swirl said. Celestia, are you planning to eliminate the monsters in the city when I finally figure out how to get rid of the toxin? Twilight asked. Yes. Spike told us what happened to his team, and we saw you fight those creatures on a log. We've been attempting to replicate your technology. With the data your last log gave us, it'll go much quicker. I saw that you figured out a way to eliminate the acidic nature of your blood. Could that be used on your body? Celestia asked. Unfortunately not. The acidic nature is because of whatever mutations I went through and my new power. My body is at the point now where if I do that to the blood I'm using, it would kill me, Twilight said. Why would it kill you? Celestia asked. My heart would stop pumping the acidic blood. The combination would mimic the effect the toxin had on the people who didn't survive. I would practically melt. If I tried doing it to my heart directly, it would destroy it, Twilight said. Celestia startled Twilight when she smashed a fist onto the barrier, causing a slight tink sound. You told me this wasn't my fault, but it is. If it weren't for my lack of power, we would all have gotten out. And now you're mutated and changed. That's worse than death you're expecting, Celestia said in a whisper as tears flowed from her eyes. She was surprised when she felt arms wrap around her. She looked up to see an oddly colored portion of the barrier. Twilight had stepped through it. It's fine. I'm actually glad it turned out like it did. I would rather the entire thing not happen in the first place, but if I would have died then, in about 100 years the barrier would fall and all of Equestria would die. If I hadn't changed, physically and everything else, like I have, then I would have been dead on day 1. Now I'm practically a walking antitoxin, and I have the strength to survive and to counter the monsters. And after it's all over, I'd like a living memorial. Everyone who died would live on through me. I would rather be reminded of what happened and make sure it never happened again. And if it did, I'd be there to stop it. Now stop worrying about me and make sure everyone is ready, Twilight said holding her at arm's reach. Twilight, is your blood the only thing that's acidic? Celestia asked softly. Yeah, why? Twilight asked. She was answered as she was nearly knocked over by her mentor as she pounced on Twilight in a kiss.
Whoa now, I can see that.
Starswirl chuckled, but Celestia didn't let up. It took 2 minutes for them to separate. I've been wanting to do that since you turned 20, Celestia said. That was 5 years ago, Twilight said with a smirk. She had returned the kiss in full force.
Well, now that you're done swapping saliva, don't you need a new spiral blade?
Starswirl asked. Way to ruin the moment, buddy, Twilight deadpanned. You've grown so much, Twilight. I hope you're right about everything you said, Celestia said. If everything goes remotely well, then it will be. If it takes as long as this might, then I'll return to this point every 5 days with whatever logs I've recorded and status update. Twilight said, I'll be here, as will Spike and your friends. Celestia said, Oh, before I forget, Twilight said as she retrieved a syringe from her pack. I meant to put a sample of my blood into the pack, but I was worried it would break during the trip over here. She continued as she drew a large canister worth of blood and handed it to Celestia. I'll get our best minds trying to figure out as much as they can about it. By the way, it must be the blood and how thin the skin on the lips are, but that kiss was very warm, Celestia said. This earned a fit of laughter from Starswirl. Oh, you're just jealous, Twilight said.
I'm going to have to agree, in both cases. You are both very charming women.
Starswirl said. Well, you're a gemstone now, so you don't have saliva to swap, Twilight said as she turned and entered the barrier again and resealed the section behind her. Twilight, Celestia said as the woman extended her wings. Yeah? Twilight replied. If you don't show up at the days you said, I'll go to Tartarus and bring you back myself, Celestia said. Sure. Twilight smiled.
How come you didn't do that for me?
Starswirl asked. Because you died naturally, buddy, Twilight said as she shot into the air.